Hi, I'm Will. I work for a company called Oxwash. Oxwash's mission is to tackle the damage done during the cleaning of textiles. We take out bits of those processes, try and replace them with either process improvement, hardware improvement, chemistry improvement, and the overall mission is just to remove all of that damage. Last year I went to Kyrgyzstan in Central Asia with a group of friends, and we planned this trip to climb some mountains. So in a previous life I kind of moonlighted as a mountaineer, and the idea was to go over and climb a few mountains that hadn't been climbed, so mountains that are around kind of 5,000 metres. And one of the pros of climbing mountains for the first time is that you traditionally get to name them. So there is a mountain in the Tian Shan in Kyrgyzstan which is named after my dog. I started my career in the military. I did a leadership development program in the military and spent 3 years doing management and also doing planning and project management as well. I then left the military because I wanted to do something that I was more value aligned to, developed a passion for trying to tackle the climate crisis. And as a result, I left and looked for a startup in either climate tech or clean tech, and found Oxwash. So joined as a general manager at first, running our operations in London and also doing account management and financial management, and then gradually kind of transitioned into more of a generalist role, initially by taking on the rollout of our objectives and key results framework, and then also running a couple of special projects, new site design, etc. And that gradually transitioned from my previous role into a new role of chief of staff, so I picked up things like special projects, corporate planning, etc. I'm sure you've heard this before, but there isn't really a generic day. With such a broad range role, you tend to be tackling different things on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. A typical day with that project could look like a site visit in the morning and then spending some time working on the site design and operational flow before meeting partners, both internally and externally, who are working on research and development. At the moment, we've got a patent pending for a concept that uses air blades and ultrasonic to dry textiles rather than using heat. So that's a really interesting project we're working on, and hopefully going to operationalise that tech and hardware in this new site. I think in terms of skills, the first one is systemisation. So a lot of what you deal with as a chief of staff is kind of grey space. You take, especially in early stage companies, a wealth of information and processes that aren't necessarily particularly refined, and you try to create systems out of them before handing them off to someone who can run those BAU. So the ability to clarify and to create systems out of something that's less clear is really valuable. Secondly, I think is analysis. So you're dealing primarily with your principal, who is pretty short on time. So again, taking that wealth of information, be it financial, operational data or commercial data, and being able to distill that into clear takeaways for them so they can action it while just using minimum time is really valuable. And then finally, less of a skill and more of a quality, but emotional quotient. The chief of staff is kind of the critical network broker in early stage organisations specifically. So that ability to understand people, to be able to persuade, to use influence, and to gain leverage when you don't necessarily have authority is something I found really valuable. So understanding people, being able to work with people and have people work with you is also really valuable. First and foremost is to build and leverage a network. There's some really interesting growing communities around the role, and also more generalist roles, both in Slack, in LinkedIn, etc. And generally, if you reach out to someone and ask for advice, then they're probably going to be, their ego is going to be tickled a little bit, and they're going to be willing to help. So if it's a role that you're interested in, I would try and find people who are doing roles in similar stage companies that you're interested in, etc. Reach out to them and look to get their advice and to work out what their route into the role was. Secondly, in your current role, I think one of the critical things with being a chief of staff is the ability to deliver change. So look for opportunities to create change, and rather than working in business as usual, try and grasp projects and change management and see that change cycle through from conception to execution and maintenance. And that's something that will really shine either on a CV or an interview. And then finally, don't be afraid about what your background is. I have quite an unusual background into the role, and from all the people I've met doing chief of staff roles, either in public service, in large corporations, or at small enterprises, they're not all the typical consultancy or financial services backgrounds. People come from kind of any sort of background, and the crucial thing is the characteristics and the qualities that you bring to the role rather than specific experience. So don't be put off by what you would say is a typical chief of staff. It's a really broad church, and again, it doesn't matter where you come from, it's what you're going to bring to the role that's critical.